the rest of our lives to be mediocre, but we have the opportunity to play like gods for the next half of football. We can't be afraid to lose. There's no room for fear in this game.
This is the New Hampshire High School Football Show.
What in the wide, wide world of sports is going on here?
If you can't stand the way this place is, take yourself to higher places.
The New Hampshire High School Football Show is brought to you by New Hampshire State Liquor Commission's Division of Enforcement.
I don't want them to gain another yard.
You blitz all night. If they cross the line of scrimmage, I'm going to take every last one of you out.
And now, here's Pete Terrier.
And it's just disappointing that every time me and you go to the same game, it's blowout. We will not make that mistake again.
And I'll offer this up to you. Next time you have to make a trip out to Keene, if you want to come next Friday to see Bedford Keene, I'll buy you dinner.
It's got the feeling of playoffs in the air on this first full weekend in the month of November. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the New Hampshire High School Football Show. We do it each and every Saturday morning between 7 and 9 a.m. on two fine stations. One of them right here in the Manchester area, WGIR AM 610. Also have a Seacoast affiliate for you, 96.7 The Wave in Dave Haley country. Of course, Dave Haley from nhsportspage.com, our new co-host. Dave, was it a little bit better making the trek from the Seacoast in this morning for you?
Yeah, the sun makes a huge difference.
Yeah, what a difference daylight savings time makes.
Since the start of time, I think we knew that. But yeah, the sun makes a huge difference. I thought it was late for a second there.
Well, it's okay. And look, we've coaches around the state that are geared up and ready for some football today. We got games. We got championship games.
Yeah.
We've got semifinal games. I know the playoffs officially started last week, but when all the teams are playing playoff football, when it's do or die for everybody, to me, that's when I get really juiced up.
It's a big day. I really wish that they would stack these games a little bit so you had, or stagger the games, I guess you'd say. Some at 1, some at 4. That would be nice to be able to see, because we can only go to one game. You and John are going to go to Bedford.
Bedford Keene, yep.
Keene, and Elliot Bless is going to go out to Somersworth for that championship game against Monadnock.
Well, we'll have all those games covered today. We have a slew of guests coming on, and we'll start them a few minutes from now. Ryan O'Leary, who's been on the Exeter beat all year long covering the defending champs. He's from seacoastonline.com. You read his stuff out of those newspapers affiliated with seacoastonline.com. Ryan will join us 7:20 this morning. We'll talk about Exeter and their defending championship bid here as they play against Manchester Central today. We also got Steve Burns coming up this hour from Trinity. He's got to drive up the Interstate 93, into the land of Lenahan.
You love that.
I love it. And John Habib, you're the man for coming up with that phrase. I love that back in the day.
Trademark.
Truck Lenahan and Steve Burns. You got experience and you got the rookie coach.
Yeah.
And you got two good football teams going at it for the Division IV championship today. We'll talk with Coach Burns about that. 7:35 this morning. We're going football Yahoo Dad with you at the top of the next hour. Greg Kretschmar, of course, from Greg in the Morning Buzz fame across our Clear Channel stations here in New Hampshire. His kid, Tyler Kretschmar, is a dominating lineman for the Somersworth Toppers football team, who you just talked about are going to play against Monadnock in the Division V championship. Greg is all fired up. He's been all fired up all year long, and we'll talk to him about what it's like to be a dad of a kid who is a senior playing potentially his last football game ever. And we'll talk to Greg at about 8 o'clock, 8:10 this morning, to get a pulse on what it's like in Topper Nation this morning.
Oh, I saw Greg. I covered that game last week in Somersworth, and Greg, I don't think he was fired up. He was absolutely terrified. He was nervous the whole game, as any parent would be, especially with your kid. And it's one last shot when you're a senior, one and done, and he's great. They're excited. They're going to play on that field today, right?
Yeah.
I mean, unless it changed last night, they're going to play on that field. I know they put the tarp down, I think, on Tuesday or Wednesday before the snow, but that's going to be a mud bowl. Because Monadnock we'll get into all this analysis later, but they're just going to pound the ball as well, and it's going to be a lot of dirty uniforms today up there.
Well, I'm looking forward to see how he's feeling, because both you and I, we have young children.
Yeah.
Your daughter is not playing competitive sports yet. My sons certainly aren't. I can't wait to be that Yahoo dad who's out there and hammering the coach saying, my kid deserves more playing time and all that. I just want to, you got to relish those moments because, I mean, as Greg's got his senior son coming up tonight, or playing his last game today, and that's got to be a special feeling for him as well. We'll stay on the Seacoast in the 8 o'clock hour. Talk to Bill Murphy from Portsmouth, the Clippers, going on the road, just like they did last year in the first round of the playoffs. They're going to take on Milford. Last year, beat up on Goffstown, the number 1 seed. When the Clips were the 4 seed, they ended up winning the championship. Different Clippers team this year, much injured team, but I just got a feeling that they're going to beat Milford today. I'm sorry, my buddy Darren Root, who used to work here at the radio station, one of the assistants for Coach Jones in Milford, I picked Portsmouth to win that game. I'm guessing you might have too.
I did.
Well, there you go. And then we'll wrap it up with Kurt Hines from Bedford. Just texted him this morning and said, hey, don't forget, Coach, you're coming on the air with us at 8:35 this morning. Just want to make sure that you're good to go. He said, I've been up since 5 o'clock this morning, so he is ready to play.
I'm sure.
Big game in Bedford with Keene and Bedford. Why don't we run down the full lineup of games? You got the official NHIAA tournament brackets, a little bracketology with Dave Haley, and that bracketology is brought to you by the New Hampshire Liquor Commission's Division of Enforcement and the Buyers Beware program, reminding all adults it's against the law to provide alcohol to minors. Yes, even if your team wins a championship in high school football today, don't have a huge party afterwards and supply the entertainment, supply the cocktails. It is against the law. Don't do it.
It's good that you clarify that, yeah. We'll start with Division 1. So all these games are at 1 o'clock today.
Yes.
And we start with number 1 seed Exeter will be hosting Manchester Central. And that's a game that Exeter won 49-0 earlier this year. And the second matchup of the day in that semifinal is going to be Pinkerton hosting Nashua South, who they beat last week. And, of course, a lot of people expecting that next week will be in Exeter for the rematch. What are we calling it? Part
2?
Yeah.
Or part 3?
Almost part 4, really. We're going to talk about Pinkerton beating them early last year, Exeter winning the championship. Then we did the rematch on the website. That was, second week? That was early September, right?
Yeah. It was the second week of the season.
Yeah, it's been fun to look at the videos throughout the season. Just you with Steve Burns at the Queen City Jamboree in shorts, and everyone's tanned and looking great. And now it's you bundled up, looking like an Eskimo.
I mentioned that to the guys. I mean, I was at that Trinity Wyndham game last week, and I talked with many of the same kids. I had Carmen Gianpatruzzi, I had Colin Bouchard, and I had Ryan Carrier. And we were doing a little interview in the dugout after the game against Wyndham, and it was cold, pretty cold that day, yesterday. And I said, hey, man, guys, I remember like 3-4 months ago, we were standing out there, in the farther end of Gill Stadium, much different conditions. I was wearing shorts.
Yeah.
And they were just starting their season, coming off that scoreless tie against Memorial in the Queen City Jamboree. But, they pictured themselves in that game, in the championship game, most likely against Plymouth at the start of it. And here they are.
Yeah. And you're just happy all those kids are healthy. It's a long season. These kids battle through it, and they're practicing in the snow this week and all that. So I'm excited for today. So moving on to Division 2, Winnicott, another rematch from a week ago. Winnicott is going to host Bishop Girton today. Does the championship reign end today for Bishop Girton? That's going to be interesting. They're going to have to empty the playbook, get turnovers. They're going to have to... They're going to pull, I wouldn't say pull a rabbit out of their hat, but pretty close. I think Winnicott looks real good. You saw Ben Franzoso. He looks great right now. He's back, and they're a different team when he's there. The game of the day, I think there's 2 games of the day, and this is one of them. Bedford hosting Keene, which is a game that you and John Kesty will have, the great John Kesty, will have coverage of. I think that's going to be... I'd be shocked if that's just not a phenomenal football game.
I think it's going to be a great game.
Those Keene kids are not going down without a fight.
To me, it's a great game, or Bedford beats them comfortably.
Yeah.
That's the way I look at it. I don't see Keene winning that game. I'm sorry, Coach Lupa. I'm sorry, Lucas Lupa.
You don't
and
really?
The rest of the guys. No, I see Bedford.
Really?
I see Bedford winning that game.
Yeah.
I really do.
I mean, I think I picked
But
it.
I think it's going to be a great game.
Yeah. I mean, it wouldn't surprise me one bit. I mean, I talked about it we talked about it with Roger Brown last week. Weather could play a factor. It looks pretty good today, but if it gets cold, then
it ain't getting cold today. I think
the
the temperature is going to be in the 50s, so I love it.
Well, that's good for Bedford because they're going to huck the ball. I mean, I couldn't believe the numbers when I did the preview that Caparell had on those guys first time around. 21 to 30, something like 331 yards, 3 touchdowns.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
I think he ran for 100.
He's a heck of I said that he's underrated as a runner because he's such a good
Right.
such a good passer. But,
Right.
Division III, which is. We're trying to figure out if this is a one-team division, but Souhegan is hosting Goffstown again. Another, just as luck has it, they just squared off a week ago. Connor Benjamin's going to have a huge game today for those guys, and then the game we just talked about, Portsmouth traveling to Milford. Donovan Fainer, one of the 5 quarterbacks who have taken a snap for the Clippers this year, may play today. Again, Dylan Crosby did some work out of the Wildcat last week, and
you think Coach Murphy will share that information?
I've
with
done
us when he
interviews with
joins
him
us?
before, and he will probably not.
Okay, we'll see.
No, he's going to keep it pretty close to the vest. Division IV, which I would call the other game of the day, in my humble opinion, which you touched on, the Land of Lenahan trademark. Plymouth,
Trademark John Habib.
Plymouth hosting Trinity, and I expect did that game earlier this year. That was a blowout. I don't see a blowout today. I think it's going to be a great football game.
I think it's going to be a great football game, too, but I like Plymouth in that game.
Yeah, I mean, boy, there's going to be a great crowd up there. I'll bet you a lot of people from Manchester make that drive up 93.
Yeah, I mean, for championship games, Trinity shows good support, but for championship games, they'll be out there en masse.
Yeah.
There'll be a lot of red.
That hill.
Yeah, that hill.
And I'm telling you, and we talked about it last week, but and I'll bet with the foliage, this is one of the best scenes you're going to see in high school football is at Plymouth. If you haven't gone to a game, and if you're, I say this about high school basketball. If you're a fan of high school basketball and you just enjoy it, go to Conant one night. Go to a game at Conant High School. Just pick a good team and go, because it's just an experience to go up there and see. I say the same thing about Plymouth. Just go to a game at Plymouth.
I agree.
Yeah, absolutely. Division 5, we'll be talking to Greg Kretschmar later about Somersworth, as we said, hosting Monadnock. I like Monadnock in this game. I don't know why.
They beat them head-to-head in the regular season.
At Monadnock, so now they got to go to Somersworth. But Will Kitterman, the quarterback for Monadnock, playing with a bum knee, but he's running the off. I mean, he's running that offense. And Blake, how do you say Blowowski? Beluski, great running back for Monadnock. I mean, I think he had over 30 carries last week.
No, I think Blake was there last year.
Yeah.
All right, and they got another kid, Beluski, this year. And I'm supposed to be the guy that doesn't know anything about Division 5.
Division 5 is Elliott's. I have to go back to him on that.
All right, well, let's not spend too much time because we have Ryan O'Leary. So let's get to Division 6, and then we'll move on.
Mascoma hosting Franklin. That game's going to be in Hanover High School. And that's the rematch of the season opener, which Mascoma won.
So they meet in the first game of the regular season and then in the last game of the season.
It's Drew Blowowski, I just remembered.
All right. Well, I knew that there was a Beluski kid or whatever. I don't know how you say that.
We got the whole family covered.
All right. Because I remember there was a kid, last year by that last name.
Yeah, it was.
This year. Or maybe it was 2 years ago.
I wrote 4,000 words this week, so I'm a little jerky here.
All right, we got Ryan O'Leary on the other side of this break. We'll talk to him about Exeter and Division I and some of those Seacoast teams. Looking forward to that. Steve Burns from Trinity later on this hour. Great full hour next hour. Greg Kretschmar, Somersworth Toppers. Dad will join us top of the hour a little bit after 8 o'clock. Bill Murphy from Portsmouth. Then Kurt Hines from Bedford, who's been up since 5 o'clock this morning getting set for this game. It is the New Hampshire High School Football Show, WGIR AM 610 and 96.7 The Wave.
You found the best place for local high school football talk. It's the New Hampshire High School Football Show on WGIR AM 610 and News Talk 96.7 The Wave.
Well, the game at Bill Ball Stadium in Exeter this afternoon. Number 1 Exeter against number 4 Manchester Central. Our next guest is a guy who I talked to after that game, back in September, and it was a blowout, 49-0. Ryan O'Leary from SeacoastOnline.com joins us. Ryan, good morning to you.
Morning, Pete. How you doing?
I'm doing okay. Do you think there's any chance that we're going to get a different scenario, different result than we saw way back in September with this one?
Yeah, I think so. I think for sure. I think the coaches and the players look at that first meeting, a little skeptically, just because of all the emotion that was going on in that week. I don't know if you set the table yet, Pete, but that was the same week that they the team kind of absorbed the news of the death of a 16-year-old kid in their program. That was on a Tuesday morning before that game. It was, I think the best way to describe it, the team kind of grieved through football that week. They used football as a way to honor their teammate. It was a really emotional week, and to see it come together that way was pretty amazing. They're expecting a tougher game. I don't think they think 49 points is an accurate separation between the two teams. I think they're expecting. Coach Ball thinks every game is a dog fight, and he expects the same thing tonight.
So Ryan, let me put the cart before the horse here, but I want to ask your opinion because I think you know this as much as anybody out in the Seacoast. If hypothetically Winnicott wins the Division II championship, Exeter wins the Division I championship, does it take anything away from Exeter because they lost head-to-head to their arch rival Winnicott and they're both champions?
Yeah, maybe a little bit. I think they got over that loss. To be honest, those games are fun for everyone. The players get up for them. The coaches get up for them. The crowd at Winnicott that night. I don't know if you guys were there, but it was awesome. But at the same time, Exeter threw the ball 11 times in that game. That's way more than they throwed it. They did a fake punt in that game. Those teams kind of throw stuff at each other. It's really it's a fun rivalry that both teams really go after each other. But I don't think Exeter will even remember that if they win the championship over Pinkerton again. If that's the game, obviously that's the matchup that would potentially happen that everyone's expecting around here. And I think if they find a way to beat Pinkerton again and win that second state championship, I don't think they'll even remember that game. I don't want to cut it. As fun as that night was, I don't think they'll remember it.
That's the voice of Ryan O'Leary from SeacoastOnline.com, following Exeter throughout the course of this season on the New Hampshire High School Football Show. Pete Terry here, along with Dave Haley from NHSportsPage.com. Ryan, when you've been with this team week after week after week, and they're so workmanlike, so business-like at Exeter, I almost liken it to sort of like a military operation where you don't really get any fluff with these guys. You never see any of the kids tweeting. You certainly don't see Coach Ball tweeting. I remember after the game at Pinkerton this year, which was a hugely hyped game, week 2 game, they all lined up right after the win. They all lined up, single file, pointing towards where their bus is off the field, and they all had their helmets on. None of them would take their helmets off. And you know how it is after these games. It's like a congregation on the field. Kids are just kind of standing around, milling around, talking, socializing with family and friends and things like that. The other team, nothing like that with this Exeter team. They're just such a well-oiled machine. Don't you agree?
Yeah, I was talking to, Coach Ray from Manchester Central, and he told me, he's like, I'm envious. I'm envious of the way Coach Ball gets his kids to just completely focus on football and nothing else. And really, there's traditions of that team, and if you saw them after the Winnicott lost, Pete, you would have saw them line up, go straight into the bus, helmets, chin straps buckled, helmets on, everyone, no talking, head straight ahead, and it was probably the longest 20-minute drive home of the season for them. And that's just, I guess they kind of call it the Exeter way. That's kind of what I've learned throughout the year, and it's pretty wild to watch. From day one, I went to the first practice, the first day of organized activities in summer, and every kid knew exactly where to be. They're all in stations. It was a well-oiled machine back in the summer on day one. So they have a system that that really works, and the kids believe in it, and Coach Ball really runs it, in a way that's tough to match. It's really cool, and it's pretty cool to be a part of, and kind of get to cover that team, and it definitely breaks the mold of high school football that I was used to covering back in the day. So it is pretty cool, Pete, for sure.
Well, all due respect to Manchester Central, and I love Ryan Ray. I think he's a great coach, and I think they got a good football team. I just see them up against it today against Exeter. So let's assume, or I will assume, that Exeter wins this football game. I'm also assuming that at Pinkerton Academy in Derry today, the Astros are going to win that game against Nashua South, and I'm a Nashua guy. So the matchup occurs next week. Pinkerton, Exeter, the one that we all want to see, the one that we all expected to see. A lot of people lately have swung their preferences as far as who would win that game if it does happen to Pinkerton. I, at the beginning of the year, thought Pinkerton was the team to beat until I saw Exeter beat them head-to-head. Now, both teams have played very, very well since that game, outside of that loss to Winnicott by Exeter. And I still think that Exeter now is the team to beat. I assume you have that feeling as well, but why do you think teams or people think that Pinkerton is going to beat them this time around?
Well, probably because they score like 42 or 49 points a game, right? I mean,
so does Exeter, though. So does Exeter,
yeah.
And Exeter's got a good defense.
Yeah, that's true. I don't know. I'm not really sure why people would swing it, because you look at that first meeting, for Exeter to go into Pinkerton without one of their, they were out without Colby Swain, who's a big weapon on offense as a running back. He's also made a lot of strides as a safety. That's really helped lock down their secondary play a little bit, because teams have been able to throw at Exeter a little bit. Teams haven't scored much on Exeter, but they have been able to throw the ball on them a little bit. And Swain's kind of seen more snaps on defense, way more than he did last year. Last year he was really just more of an offensive player. This year he's been a big part of the secondary. Coach Ball called him a kind of a difference maker back there. If he can, read his cues, because he's so athletic back there. So that was one player that Exeter didn't have, and they also didn't have their kicker, who, Logan Laurent, who we all know is a difference maker. So they went into Derry. I thought that was a really impressive win by Exeter early in the season, and I still think it'll be a 4-point game. If they happen to meet again in the championship, it'll be a really fun game for everybody to watch and cover and play in. But I don't know. It's hard to get too crazy about either side. But I think Exeter at home, healthy with their full team, hopefully healthy. Hopefully no one's getting hurt, in this weekend. But it's tough not to give Exeter a slight edge, I think, in that game personally. But that's just me.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm biased now, Pete. I don't know.
You probably are. I mean, look, and that's not a knock. It's just a natural thing. You cover a team, you become partial to that team. You're either killing that team or you're in love with that team. It's, look at Tommy Heinsohn. Although he never kills the team, he never kills the Celtics. Ryan, you're going to be tweeting updates. I know that Seacoast Online is going to be doing a lot of tweeting of all the games you guys are covering. Why don't you share what your Twitter handle is? Maybe you can pick up a couple of followers.
Sure. My Twitter handle is at @RY_O'Leary SMG, and we do something really cool. We have this Cover It Live feature on our website where when I tweet out with the hashtag FNF, it goes on this live feed on the Seacoast Online website, along with all the other games, including that Marshwood and York game, which on the Seacoast is, everyone else at Exeter will probably be at that game, all the Seacoast football fans, because that's like a hugely hyped game with two local teams, in Maine, right across the border there. So, all the games will go to that. All the info kind of goes to that feed on the website, and people can comment on it and see all the tweets come in. It's a pretty cool feature. So, if people are stuck at home today, which hopefully they're not, they should check that out for sure.
All right, Ryan. Well, we really appreciate the time. Enjoy the game. And if all goes well, I think you'll probably be seeing me next week at Bill Ball Stadium, because I'm looking forward to that Pinkerton-Exeter game. I have been all year. I just hope it happens.
Yeah, I'd love to see you, Pete. Hope that happens.
All right, Ryan. Thanks a lot, man. We'll talk to you soon.
All right, thanks.
Ryan O'Leary, SeacoastOnline.com, on the Exeter beat. He's been treated this year. He's been spoiled. He's had a real good football team to cover. We got to take a break, come back. We got another real good football team. As a matter of fact, two good football teams to talk about next. Steve Burns, the head coach of the Trinity Pioneers, will join us hours before they take on the Plymouth Bobcats in the land of Lenahan for the Division IV championship. You'll hear it on the New Hampshire High School Football Show, WGIR, AM 610, 96.7 The Wave.
Welcome back to the best local coverage of New Hampshire high school football on the New Hampshire High School Football Show on WGIR AM 610 and News Talk 96.7 The Wave.
Oh, heading up towards 8 o'clock on this super playoff Saturday. Some teams vying for championships in Divisions 4, 5, and 6. You got the semifinal round going to kick off this afternoon, 1 o'clock in Divisions 1, 2, and 3. One of the coaches going for a championship. His team looking to defend their D4 championship, but he is a first-year head coach, and he is Steve Burns from Trinity. Coach Burns, do you get any sleep on a night prior to your first game as a head coach going for a championship?
I was up kind of late, but once I fell asleep, I was asleep. Pretty well.
So, Coach, we've texted throughout the season after the first Plymouth game, and a couple times, I remember after Plymouth played Wyndham, I was letting you know we had video, and you said I was there. How many times have you seen Plymouth? I mean, how many times do you watch these guys in person? How many times on film?
Well, morning, David. Good to hear from you,
yeah,
pal.
Nice talking to you, too.
We've seen them a lot. We went up there, even before we played them, we saw them opening week against Lebanon. Saw them play Wyndham, saw them play St. Thomas. I think we saw them live one more game. Most of the coaches' cars can drive to Plymouth by themselves right now. And then the film that we've gotten on them, I think we've seen every single game they've played this year. So we've seen Plymouth. We know what they're going to do. And, Chuck has seen us, and he knows what we're going to do. There's no secrets today.
Well, I think the interesting note that not a lot of people are aware of is that you guys going into the game this year owned Plymouth when head-to-head competition. You guys were 3-0 against them until this game earlier this year where they beat you 36-14. So you got to be using that with your team, saying, hey, look, they beat us, they got us good the last time we played, but you know what? We've dominated the series, and you guys have been part of that.
We've talked about things like that. These guys know that, this year's team's different. This is, the guys who won those 3 games and everything, a lot of those guys are gone. Andrew Lauderdale's not with the team anymore. Josh Hughes isn't carrying the ball for us. So it's, their legacy this year. So, they know that they lost to Plymouth and everything, and, whether or not, they get a chance to, they've got the chance. Whether or not they do something about that, we're going to find out in a few hours.
Everybody knows, about Brandon Goodale, or everybody should know at least, and I think Colin Sullivan has been huge for those guys. I think he's been more mature and more settled in at the quarterback spot than even they expected. But talk about some of the other guys. I mentioned John Thomas. I think he's a kid who's grossly underrated. I mean, he's a heck of a football. Jared Kuhl. They've got some real good football players. Who else have you noticed in all the film work and all the times that you've seen these guys play?
Those guys you mentioned have been absolutely huge for them and everything. And, Colin's a guy who, I don't even know if we gave him his due respect going into the first game. He hadn't run very much in those first 2 games, and we found out that day he's a very good runner. He's a scrambler, very elusive. And he ran for 80 yards and, at least 1 score against us. So he caused us some major headaches. John Thomas, Jared Kuhl have been, very, very good running backs, tough linebackers. Noah Crane's been a very good receiver for them. Nick Reiser could be the most underrated player in the division. He is a very, very tough young man. He was he blocked a punt against us. He played very good defense as a defensive end. He was a wingback who had, key blocks all over the place for them against us and everything. So, I mean, and then they got that line, which is, as disciplined as any line I've ever seen. They know where they need to go. They stay welded to their blocks, and they just move their feet. So, they're good in 11 out of 11 positions, across the board.
What about Coach Lenahan? I mean, you're on one sideline looking across at this guy who's been coaching as long as you've been alive. I mean, really, he's in his 43rd year coaching. Coach, what are you, 43? Is that how old?
No, I'm not even close to 43 yet.
All right. So what does that make you feel like? I mean, do you ever go, do I even belong in the same league as this guy?
No, you can't question stuff like that. As soon as you question something like that, it's football. I've been coaching football a long time. I started, fresh out of college and everything. 22 years old, I was coaching down at, Salem High School and everything. I've got plenty of years under my belt and everything. I don't have, quite 41. But it's a game of football. If you do your homework and everything, it doesn't matter if you're 66 or 26. You do your homework, you do your things. You put yourself in a position to win, and you put your kids in a position to do well.
You mentioned the block punt, and I was thinking I'd even forgotten about that. And again, I was there that day, and I mean, it was every time you guys started moving the ball, something happened. I mean, there was I think Austin Chambers fumbled on a really long kick return. Carmen threw a pick six to, I believe, John Thomas. It wasn't that they dominated you in any fashion. It was just sort of you guys, and give them credit for this, but you guys sort of shot yourselves in the foot quite a few times. I know you felt that way afterwards. Do you feel the same way looking back at that? Did you kind of throw away that film? I mean, and just say, did you watch that film with the kids, or did you sort of just throw that thing away and say, look, we're not doing that stuff again, and I don't expect us to make the same mistakes the second time around?
Oh, no, we watched that film yesterday.
That must have been fun.
Football is always fun, Dave. Part of making mistakes is, the team that you're playing is a very good team, and they force you to make mistakes sometimes, and they put you in positions where, you do things that you're not accustomed to. We had the blocked punt. Then we had, we were driving the ball, and we had the pick six. And then immediately after the pick six, Austin returned it, into Plymouth territory. I want to say we were at the 45 or so, and he fumbled it on that one. So instead of a chance to tie it up at, 7-7 or 6-7 or take the lead at 8-7, whatever, we were looking at 22-0 in a span of 3 minutes. So, they took the ball away from us. They made the big plays, they made the big stops and everything, and we just can't allow them to do that to us today.
Steve Burns from Trinity is our guest. His team going to take on the Plymouth Bobcats for the championship in Division 4. 1 o'clock kickoff, Zulius Field in the land of Lenahan this afternoon. Coach, I want to use like sort of a basketball reference here. During a basketball season, regular season, you usually see a coach with a much bigger rotation. They might play 10 guys, but when they get it to the playoffs, they try and narrow it down to maybe 7 or 8 guys. Your team was a team that used a ton of different guys. I mean, a slew of running backs. But it seems like when you get into these crunch time games, you're kind of narrowing your rotation a little bit, and you're utilizing Ryan Carrier and Romeo Masuko and Austin Chambers, and where some other guys were seeing some carries earlier in this year. You've really, really trimmed down that rotation. Would you agree with that?
Yes and no. Early in the season, we played, some teams that we had the luxury of, going up pretty big on them, and we were able to get a bunch of guys into the game and everything. So we had a chance to play, Saiku Ba and Chase Hughes and some of our younger guys and get them experience and everything. The only one who's, fallen out of the rotation has been, Zach Poole. Zach actually suffered a pretty good injury up at Plymouth in that first game. And, my heart goes out to the kid. I feel terrible for him. He fought back for 7 weeks, through rehab and everything, only to come down with an illness this week. After being ruled in by the trainer and the doctors, and, he was healthy, good to go. He got an illness, and a different doctor ruled him out as far as, medically. But, other than that, it's been, Romes, and it's been Ryan, it's been Austin. Somebody we've been able to get into the loop a little bit more. We found out in the Kennett game that he wasn't just a receiver, that he could run the ball a little bit, was Brad Rhodes. Brad had been, playing mainly defense for us and came in a wide receiver set for us. And, we worked him a little bit and gave him a chance, and all of a sudden, he sprinted 31 yards, and he was untouched, and it was like, oh, okay, we've got a play runner that we can use here down the stretch.
Have you had how's the week of practice been with these guys? I mean, with these guys, that Wyndham game was such a taxing game. I'm sure it was a great football game. That was a very good team that you beat. These kids I'm sure they've been dying for another shot at Plymouth. I mean, has it been a good week of practice for you?
It's been freezing and it's been sloppy. We had Sandy come in 2 weeks ago and we got stuck, playing indoors for an hour and a half each day. This week we've gotten some snow, we've gotten the wind. The kids have been a little bit miserable and a little bit cranky. I've heard from more than one guy, Coach, I'm not made for this. I belong in warm weather.
Hopefully it wasn't a starter.
It was a twist.
Not anymore,
All
yes, sir.
over the specials. Yeah. No, the kids have fun. They make light of stuff and everything. We'll see. They're, the coaches talk. The kids are goofy bunch. Even yesterday, in a pregame situation, they did a couple of things where, I shook my head and, I couldn't get aggravated with them because it almost made me laugh. But yeah, I looked at Denny Richmond, who's been coaching football, for about 50 years. I said, Denny, they're an odd bunch. And he goes, Coach, yo, my yes.
Well, Coach, we really wish you the best of luck. I mean, this is a situation, Dave talked about this earlier. With all these games being played, there's 9 games going off at 1 o'clock. It makes it difficult. You want to be in multiple places at one time, and you can't do it. Thank goodness that the Twitter revolution has occurred. So I will be able to follow your game while I'm in the press box at Bedford for Bedford-Keene. But your game, I mean, if I had a choice to clone myself and go to 2 separate games, I'd be at Bedford-Keene. I'd be at Plymouth against Trinity this afternoon. So really enjoy it. I'm looking forward to following the updates, and I wish you guys the best of luck.
Thanks, guys. I appreciate it and everything, and I appreciate everything you do for high school sports and, especially high school football.
And Coach, before you go, I don't know if our listeners know, but you and I went to Keene State College together. And, I thought this would be a nice moment for you if, the day of your big game, that you could take the opportunity to apologize to me on the air for all the technical fouls you called on me in intramural basketball, which I'm sure you deeply to this day regret. And if you'd like to, apology over the air, I'd be willing to listen.
Well, Dave, I'm actually shocked because I had the same thought when you were calling today. I figured, Dave hurt my feelings so bad when we were in college and everything.
I was getting hit.
And I was such a, and am such a sensitive, sentimental man myself.
Yeah.
I haven't been able to sleep, about those. I thought you were going to apologize for the names you called me and for the way you treated me back in the day.
Can we kill his mic or something? Hey, good luck today. It's going to be. I'm excited to find out what happens today. It should be a great one.
Well, me too. Hopefully we show up and we can play some football with these guys today.
Yeah, and no matter what happens, we'll talk to you within a week or so because we're going to be broadcasting the Turkey Bowl game, you guys against Central on WGIR AM 610 in a couple of weeks on Thanksgiving Day. So I'll be in touch.
Oh, fantastic. That sounds fantastic. I look forward to it, guys.
All right, thanks. Steve Burns from Trinity heading to the land of Lenahan for a game against the Bobcats and the number 1 coach in all of New England high school football history, Chuck Lenahan. Should be a hell of a game. Take a quick break, come back, wrap up the hour, head towards the top of the hour, 8 o'clock. It is the New Hampshire High School Football Show, WGIR AM 610, 96.7 The Wave. We're heading up towards 8 o'clock. 7:53 is your time. The New Hampshire High School Football Show. We bring it to you each and every Saturday morning between 7 and 9 a.m. WGIR AM 610 in and around the Manchester area. Also catch us on the New Hampshire Seacoast 96.7 FM, a.k.a. 96.7 The Wave. Pete Terrier along with Dave Haley. The show also going to be posted online. The video cast, John Kesty from nhsportspage.com in here filming it as he is every single week. And Dave, you take a shower pretty much every morning so far you've been in here?
I do.
Because most of the time I don't.
I'm on camera.
Most of the time I don't.
I'm a single guy. I'm not married like you, Pete. I don't know who's watching.
So you using this as sort of like a dating profile?
Let's hope not. I don't think it would go very well. Not with a lot of success.
All these single high school kid mothers are like, oh, that Dave Haley guy's pretty cute.
Can I jump in on the dating pool?
Yeah,
Adam Furious, our new producer here, flying solo, doing a heck of a job. Glad to have him here.
Hello.
And he's actually a sports fan. We've had all these producers. I know Kayla, when she was here, was a sports fan, but Adam's a real sports fan. So, if you ever call me last minute, sick on a Saturday morning, first of all, I'll kill you. All right,
I don't call it.
You can't do that.
I'll be here.
But I'll bring in Adam Furious, and we'll see if he can replace you. I'll drop you in a heartbeat. No, I'm just kidding.
I wouldn't allow that to happen because I'm sure he could replace me quite well. So
I want to talk about the Division 1 semi that we really haven't touched on a whole lot. Nashua South and Pinkerton.
Yeah.
There was a game that we just saw played last week, 40-20. Pinkerton beat Nashua South. And I think Brian O'Reilly, he is a mastermind. All right. He is a great coach. No one will question that. and he just knows what to do and when to do it and why to do it. And what he did last week was he threw the football, something that they don't like to do.
Right.
Pinkerton teams are a running football team. We know this.
Right.
Last week, he threw the ball double-digit times with his quarterback, Sean Conroy. Why did he do it? Because he wanted to show Scott Knight that, hey, this is something that you're going to have to prepare for. We're going to come out throwing the ball a lot more than we normally do. You're going to have to think about it. You're going to have to game plan for it. And then chances are we're probably not going to do it next week.
Yeah. I mean, but at the same time, they had to win that game. So, you want to kind of throw some vanilla defenses at them as opposed to what you may run today. But they had to win that game. That was for home field. So I don't think they held everything back. But
no, I don't think they held anything back. I'm not saying they did.
But it's different. You're saying, yeah.
I'm just saying he gave them something else to think about.
Yeah.
And I also think that they went into the game pretty confident that they were going to win the game no matter what.
I think they think they're going to beat Exeter too. I think the X factor in this game today is Stephen Choate, the wide receiver for Nashua South. I know there was some. I might have gotten some emails. There was some grumbling that he wasn't carrying the ball enough within, Nashua, and they've started running the ball with him with great success. I mean, he's a
big play guy.
Yeah, exactly. He's got breakaway speed, and that's the thing about high school football. There's more breakaway long touchdowns, obviously, than you're going to see in the NFL with regularity or in college. And when you got a guy like that, maybe they're struggling to move the ball. Maybe they go 3 and out. Maybe they get the ball the second time, in their first run, they get a yard into the pile. But then, boom, he goes around the corner, and you know what I mean? Those are the kind of things that turn playoff games. Those quick strikes, boom, it's 7-0, here we go.
I think the thing with Nashua South is they've got 3 guys that have big playability. Mm-hmm. Obviously, it starts with the quarterback, Trevor Knight, Stephen Choate out of the wide receiver or running back position, and then Dymere Hyde, a kid that didn't even play for a couple of years, has had a big year running the football. He's a powerful guy. He's got some size. Choate is a little guy. He's very well put together. He's kind of got a body like he's smaller than Jerickson Frederick. He's probably like Max Jake's height, but the body of Jerickson Frederick, that type.
Sounds like a super
not as
big.
You're
creating
not as big. I'm just trying to describe it.
I gotcha.
And Dymere Hyde is just a big guy.
Yeah.
Dymere Hyde reminds me a little bit of Romeo Masuku from Trinity.
He's a big kid.
They're about 6'2". They're strong. They're powerful. They've got some speed. So I think the difference with South is they've got 3 big play guys. But I think Pinkerton's defense is really good. Brian O'Reilly told us on this program earlier this year that his 2 linebackers, and we got about 45 seconds before we got to hit the top of the hour break, his 2 linebackers, Matt Madden and Matt St. Ange, are 2 of the best linebacker combos that he's ever had in his 34 years coaching Pinkerton.
They're the 2 best in the state.
That's something
in tandem.
That's something to say. All right, we got to take a break. We're going to come back on the other side. We got Yahoo Somersworth topper football dad Greg Kretschmar joining us. Then we got Bill Murphy from Portsmouth High School getting ready to take on Milford, and Kurt Hines from Bedford getting ready to take on Keene. New Hampshire High School Football Show, WGIR 610, 96.7 The Wave.
Of our lives to be mediocre, but we have the opportunity to play like gods for the next half of football. We can't be afraid to lose. There's no room for fear in this game.
This is the New Hampshire High School Football Show.
What in the wide world of sports is going on here?
If you can't stand the way this place is, take yourself to higher places.
The New Hampshire High School Football Show is brought to you by New Hampshire State Liquor Commission's Division of Enforcement.
I don't want to gain another yard.
You blitz all night. If they cross the line of scrimmage, I'm going to take every last one of you out.
And now, here's Pete Terrier.
And it's just disappointing that every time me and you go to the same game, it's a blowout. We will not make that mistake again.
I'll offer this up to you. Next time you have to make a trip out to Keene, if you want to come next Friday to see Bedford Keene, I'll buy you dinner.
Well, Coach Lupa, we will see Bedford Keene today, but it will not be in the Elm City. My co-host Dave Haley's alma mater, Keene State University. Is it the Elm City? Is that what they call it? Is that what they call it?
I think so.
The Elm City?
It's been a while. Those hazy days.
Yeah, I'm sure
Keene
it
State
was.
College.
I'm sure it was. I'm really looking forward to that Keene-Bedford game at Bedford High School. We will talk to the head coach of the Bulldogs, Kurt Hines, whose team survived the trip to Keene and had a 1-point victory way back when. I think that was early October or late September. I can't exactly remember. A lot of games around the state. This is hour number 2 of the New Hampshire High School football show, going up till 9 o'clock. As I said, Coach Hines from Bedford coming up. We got Bill Murphy, the Portsmouth football coach, coming up. Greg Kretschmar, Somersworth football, Yahoo dad, his son playing in the championship game in Division 5 today. We'll talk to him in just a couple of minutes. But let's run down the full slate of games brought to you by New Hampshire Liquor Commission's Division of Enforcement, the Buyers Beware program, reminding all adults it's against the law to provide alcohol to minors, even in your championship parties tonight. 3 teams will be crowned champions. They'll probably be having celebrations. Don't buy the kids beers, okay? Just don't do it. It's against the law.
Plenty for the adults, yeah. So 2 games in Division 1. Exeter is going to be hosting Manchester Central. Again, that was a 49-0 game the first time around, but that was early in the season. Pinkerton will be hosting Nashua South, and that's a rematch of a game that took place last weekend. And again, a lot of people looking forward to a possible Pinkerton-Exeter rematch.
Especially me.
Winnicott High School happens to be a half a mile from my house. We'll be taking on, so I may be there today, taking on Bishop Girton for the second time in a week. It's a theme. As the 1 seed, and then, of course, the game you just discussed, where you will be with John Kesty Bedford hosting Keene. And I think Keene's got more of a chance than you think they do.
I think Keene's got a chance, but I see a close game.
Right.
Either that or a Bedford comfortable win.
You're going to have to answer to them, so I'm just going to, it's fine, trying to help you out. Souhegan is hosting Goffstown, another game that took place last week, but I don't think they were showing their cards at all last week, Souhegan. They gave up a lot of points. I don't see it the second time around. But they're playing Goffstown at home today. And the second game will be Portsmouth. Of course, we got Bill Murphy coming up, traveling to Milford. And Portsmouth, the defending champs. They lost to Milford, but Dylan Crosby didn't play the first time around. Neither did a lot of those kids, and they've got some kids back from injury this second time around. The Division 4 championship game, Plymouth at home, hosting Trinity in a rematch. Again, we just talked to Coach Steve Burns from Trinity. Division 5, Somersworth at home. And I can't wait to talk to Greg Kretschmar and find out. I want to know field conditions. I want to know soil. I want to know everything that's going on in that field because they've had some tough weather, and it's going to be interesting. It's going to be a running game today. Monadnock at Somersworth. And then the final game of the day, on the turf at Hanover High School, Mascoma. First championship game in school history. I think they've only had a program 3-4 years. They've been a great story. They're hosting Franklin, who has a couple of championships under Greg Husband. That's the Division 6 championship.
Oh, it's going to be a great day, and our next guest is definitely locked and loaded for the Division 5 championship game. I've been referring to him as a Yahoo Somersworth football dad. He is Greg Kretschmar, host of Greg in the Morning Buzz on our Clear Channel stations here in New Hampshire. Greg, good morning to you.
A Yahoo dad. Good morning.
I'm just jealous of you, Greg, because I got 2 young boys who, are 4.5 and 2.5 years old. So I know I want to enjoy them growing up, but I go to these games all the time, and
Sure.
I see it, and I'm kind of jealous of you because you've got a kid actually playing a big part in this championship game today and in the season, and you must be, giddy. I saw your tweet last night that you were more nervous than he was. What's it been like kind of leading up to this game today for you?
It wasn't an easy walk for any team, I think, in Division 5. And we played Monadnock, and that was definitely our toughest game. We had a bad night that night. That's a tough team, and we played a lot of tough teams this year. And every weekend, it's strange how you go about your life, you do your job, and all the things that you worry about in life. But man, when it comes weekend time, all you can think about is that football game. It's a fun ride, but it's really nerve-wracking. Now that they're playing for the D5 championship, it's kind of like an all-business atmosphere in the house. It's pretty funny.
Greg, did you guys do anything? Did the team do anything last night? Did you get like a pasta dinner or anything like that? Or?
Yeah, they always do a team dinner. They get together and they go out. Last night they had some special stuff that they did that was kind of that's where you really sit back and learn. Like what Pete was talking about. I'm on the sidelines, but I'm one of those parents where I watch. I encourage. I'm not a negative. We stay positive and that kind of stuff. But I watch what they do, and it's funny as they get older. And these kids have been playing together since they were young, like Pee Wee football, even before then. And you see them act like men. And it's really the things that they do and the things that they pay attention to that are not, football X's and O's related, and the honor and the tradition that they show makes you sit back and go, man, they're young men. They're not kids anymore. They're men, and it's very impressive to do. They got together, they had the dinner, and then they did a couple of special things, quiet ceremony, like private things that have history related. I know that there's a tradition that I found out about this morning. Where they go to the field and they light a candle on Lord Jeff Franker's. They have a little monument there, and the team went there after the dinner and they lit a candle and had a little ceremony there. And I didn't even know that they did that, but apparently it's history in Somersworth where before a championship game the night before, that's something that they always do. So.
Hey, Greg, one of the big stories going into this one was actually where they were going to play the game. The field is in not great condition. I mean, it is mid-November in New Hampshire. We've had storms. We had snow this week. There was a lot of talk that this game was going to get moved to Portsmouth High School, the nice artificial turf surface. But the game is being played in Somersworth, correct?
Correct, it is, yeah.
What was were they worried about that? Did they really not want to do that? I assume that they wanted to play the home game, the real home game.
Well, for us, I mean, obviously that would be an advantage, but there were advantages too as well, because it got talked about quite a bit in the last couple of days. There were some advantages, at least on the thinking of the coaches, that there would be some advantages for us to be on turf as well. However, it's funny. They put the call out for tarps, and people from all over the town brought tarps out to the field, before the storm, and they covered the field in tarps. The kind of, the 15 by 15 or 20 by 20 tarps you get at Home Depot, and they did the best they could to do that and sort of protect the field as best they could. And I guess it was good enough because we got the word mid-afternoon. It wasn't a late day decision. They got the word mid-afternoon yesterday that the field would be playable. But I'm sure it's going to be muddy. It's going to be muddy, no question.
So, Greg, a lot of times when I interview these kids, high school kids they're a funny bunch. Sometimes I interview these kids after games, and because of Twitter and whatnot during the playoffs, I remember one time I was covering a Portsmouth basketball game, and I was talking to the kids, and I said, hey, by the way, Pembroke won. You're playing them in the semis. And they just kind of like, oh, really? All right. Like, whereas parents or adults, we're scouting, oh, this is who we want to play. I don't want to play those guys. How was Tyler? How were the kids about Monadnock? It's the only team that beat them. Kearsarge is equally as good. But, I mean, how were the kids about Monadnock? Did they want to play them again, or what was the sense you got?
Well, there's nobody. The funny thing is about this team, and again, I just sit back and I'm not telling these kids what to do or what to say. I'm just kind of watching and observing everything, and especially when it comes to, I have a from a media background, I watch how they interact with the media, so I pay attention to that, and I think that it was a 3-4 team race. You know that in D5 all season long. When they lost to Monadnock, one of the tweets that I think my son wrote a tweet on the bus ride home. I never want to feel like this again. And that's the collective feeling the rest of the team had. That was a tough night. That was a tough game. That long bus ride. I mean, it was brutal. I think they might be better served playing Monadnock because that's the motivation for the team, and I think they feel that way. Although they've been very businesslike, and they haven't said that. I think somebody said it in one of the papers. I think maybe Drew said it in one of the papers that there's an edge in the sense of revenge. They want to make sure, they want to make a statement. That's the one team that beat them, and Somersworth wants to show them that they can beat them.
That's a familiar voice you may recognize. Greg Kretschmar from Greg in the Morning Buzz. We have him on the New Hampshire High School football show this morning because his son Tyler, standout two-way player for the Somersworth Toppers, entertaining the Monadnock Huskies this afternoon. 1 o'clock kickoff. The game will be played in Somersworth, and they're going for the D5 championship. Greg, one more for you before we got to let you go. I know you're an avid photographer. I know you take a ton of great pictures. I assume you'll have the camera on the sidelines today and you'll be taking some pictures. And can people find these pictures and ultimately maybe purchase them on Kretschy.com?
Well, actually, you can go to if you go to Facebook and you look up Somersworth High School football, I put all the pictures there, and I take a lot of them every week. I'm on the sidelines, and I take all the pictures there for the kids and for the team for free. because, what parent doesn't want a picture of their kid, on the team? And I take pictures of the whole team. So if you want to see pictures of the games and stuff, you can go there. And it's kind of my gift to the team and the coaches and the parents. So that's where you can see him.
And trust me, he takes phenomenal pictures.
Yeah, I've seen him.
He takes phenomenal pictures.
I've been to that page. It's great. Everybody should check it out. It's really good.
So they play Somersworth, Spalding in the Turkey Bowl, but that game doesn't mean anything. I mean, this is what it's all about today.
Yeah, this is it. They're looking at this like this is the last game of their high school career. I mean, they are all business. Like they are not. They're not boastful. They're not. They are 100% serious. They know how tough this team is. The Monadnock team is. They have the utmost respect for these guys, and it's all business. They've been wearing ties to school all week long because they got business to do. I mean, it's interesting to sit back and watch. I got a knot in my stomach the size of a basketball.
Well, I wish you guys the best of luck. I'm rooting for you. I actually picked you guys. I do picks on a couple of different New Hampshire high school sports websites. I picked Somersworth twice. And that's not because I'm friends with you, Greg. It's because I believe.
Well, I appreciate it. It's really when your sons get older, I hope that you go through this because we went through it with my daughter and her softball team, and there's nothing like it. I mean, it's all about the ride. It's all about the journey that they take, and there's lessons to be learned, win or lose. There's no question about it, and that's what it's all about. So hopefully today we'll have a great day. I'm looking forward to it. I'm very nervous, but we're looking forward to it.
Have some fun, Greg, and good luck to the Toppers.
Thanks, guys.
All right, Greg Kretschmar. Toppers, Yahoo fan extraordinaire.
Yahoo, I'll tell you.
Taking on the Monadnock Huskies today. We got to take a break. We come back, we'll get Bill Murphy from Portsmouth High School. He's our next guest. Taking on Milford, D3 semifinals, the defending champs. Can they advance to another championship game? If they do, it'll be their 5th straight championship game appearance. That's pretty good stuff. It is the New Hampshire High School Football Show. WGIR AM 610 and 96.7 The Wave.
You found the best place for local high school football talk. It's the New Hampshire High School Football Show on WGIR AM 610 and News Talk 96.7 The Wave.
Well, we head out to the Seacoast to talk to our next guest. You can hear us crystal clear all over the New Hampshire Seacoast. 96.7 The Wave, Pete Terrier, along with Dave Haley, nhsportspage.com. Show also going to be posted up on the video cast on nhsportspage.com at some point as we put up every single radio show on the website. We've got playoff football today all around the state of New Hampshire. 3 champions will be crowned in Divisions 4, 5, and 6. Meanwhile, in Divisions 1, 2, and 3, they will kick off semifinal action today. And here to talk about one of the D3 semifinal games is the head coach of the Portsmouth Clippers, Coach Bill Murphy. Coach Murphy, good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
We're doing okay. Looking at your team, trying to get back to a championship game in D3 for the 5th straight season. That is remarkable if you guys can do it. You're going into Milford, though, to play a team that you lost to just a couple of weeks ago, 24-6. I think the story with your team, Coach, all year has really been injuries. You've been coaching for quite a while. Would you say that you've ever been bit by the injury bug as bad as you have been this year?
I can't remember that we have, no. It's something that you hope doesn't happen, and it did happen this year, right from the first game when we lost starting quarterback that game, and consistently all the way through we've been losing people. But I think we're getting healthier now, so we're ready to go.
Well, I guess one thing that you can look at is say, you know what, guys, we've overcome these injuries, and we're still playing in the playoffs despite the fact that we've had all these injuries this year.
Well, I think everybody stepped up, and they understood that it was their chance to shine. When somebody went down, another person was able to get a starting position, get in there, get some playing time, and that's something that I think all the players want. They want to be involved in the game, so they understand that, and the players that are injured are starting to get healthier, so I think we're in good shape now.
Coach, are you going to have Donovan Fainor today? Is he going to be available to play quarterback for you?
I think he'll be back maybe on a limited basis, but we'll have him, yes.
I have a friend whose son, Cody Graham, is a really good football player in your program in the 7th grade level, and he was joking. He thought Cody might get called into action at some point this season as you kept going to a junior and then a sophomore and then a freshman, and somewhere along the line you were going to hit the middle schools. But you used Dylan Crosby a little bit in the Wildcat last week as I wanted to just hear your thoughts on that and how it came to that kind of decision. I know it worked with some good success against Alvern.
Well, I'm very fortunate in that I've got an outstanding staff, and that was their decision, that was their plan, and they understood that Dylan was a great player and it was a great athlete, and it was just something that we wanted to try, and I think that it worked very, very well for us. So, Dylan is somebody that we've counted on all year long, and it worked very well that particular night.
Bill Murphy from Portsmouth is our guest. His team getting set to travel across 101 to the west into Milford to take on the Spartans. The Spartans, the number 2 seed in Division III. Portsmouth, number 3 in D3. You guys made it all the way to the championship game last year and won as a number 4 seed. So I'm sure you're not too uncomfortable, playing a road game in the playoffs today and trying to get back to that championship game. Can you use some of that experience from last year for this year's team?
Well, I think they understand that, first of all, Milford's a very, very good team, and we've had epic battles with them over the years. And when you get into this situation, first and foremost, you want to get into the playoffs. And now that we're here, who we play is not really all that important to us. We're here, and we just focus on who we have.
Coach, you've really had one of the most prolific passing attacks the last few years, going back to Mike Francoso and Billy Hartman last year and so forth. I mean, you've always had guys who have been able to throw the football, and this year, because of injuries, Travis McDonald went down for you early. What kind of adjustment? Have you just had to change your philosophy, or you've been able to kind of run out of the same sets, or how the injuries affected that, your ability to throw the ball and play the style you really want to?
Well, firstly, we have 3 quarterbacks who are all pretty good, and we had to take advantage of the fact that they were good quarterbacks. Secondly, my coaching staff does an outstanding job, and they were able to tweak the system a little bit so that we could get the positives of the people that we do have available. And in that regard, not only did they do well, they did very well. So it opened up what we did last week. So out of necessity, we were able to start a whole new phase with our offense. So the assistant coaches do an outstanding job, or co-coaches, actually. They're not my assistants, they're co-coaches, but they did a wonderful job, and we had good athletes to fill the roles.
Coach, I want you to talk about one of your star players. A lot of time linemen don't get a lot of attention from the media, but Ricky Holt is a kid that certainly gets the attention. I mean, a real big, strong kid that's a factor on both sides of the football for you. He's a senior, potentially playing his last game today. Outside of you guys are playing Dover, I think, in the Turkey Bowl later on this year. But can you talk about the contributions Ricky Holt has made to your team over the last few years playing for you?
Well, Rick has been a constant for us, certainly from his sophomore year where he was a starter. He is somebody that I feel the other teams really don't want to run at. He's quick, he's strong, he's intelligent, he's able to do a whole lot of things, and he's turned into a great leader this year. So he would be somebody that we're going to be hard pressed next year to find a replacement for.
I got one more quick one for you. Let's take it back to the 24-6 loss in Milford a couple of weeks ago. What's the one thing that you remember about that game that you guys, if you could just correct that, then you'd be in better shape for this game coming up today?
Well, we have to be more disciplined, and I think we have to be a little tougher. I think that Milford is a very physical team. They're tough. We've always had problems with them over the years. They're blue collar. We just have to
adjust to that. We have to be a little tougher ourselves and eliminate mistakes.
All right, Coach, we really appreciate the time. Thanks for coming on the program with us. Best of luck this afternoon in Milford. It should be a good one. Milford, Portsmouth, number 2 Spartans against number 3 Clippers, the defending D3 champs. Thanks so much, Coach.
Oh, thank you very much for having me.
All right, Bill Murphy from Portsmouth. Pretty soon we'll be jumping on a bus and be heading west out to take on the Spartans. And as I mentioned before, one of my friends is an assistant coach on the Milford Spartans teams. They're all fired up. Darren Root coached at Merrimack for a while, was with Milt Robinson at Hollis Brookline, been with Keith Jones at Milford for the last couple of years. Good guy. They are very, very fired up about this game today.
Yeah, they got the champs, and then we talked a little bit with Ryan O'Leary about that great Winnicott Exeter rivalry. Milford Sauhegan.
That's a big one.
That's a big one. So if they get there, it's a championship, so it wouldn't matter who the heck they were playing. But they're playing, Mickey Mouse University, they'd be happy. But that's a big rivalry. Those kids know each other, and Milford, Portsmouth's Coach Murphy's I think he's one of the best coaches in the state. So they're gonna have some new looks again. Dylan Crosby's playing today. That's a big difference. He didn't play the first time around, but Connor Bourne, really good running back from Milford. They've Harrison Uda. Urda. They've got a really good offense as well. So that should be it's going to be a tight game, I would.
Who did you pick in that game?
I picked Portsmouth.
I picked Portsmouth.
Portsmouth
as well.
Guy.
I picked Portsmouth as well. Just something about Portsmouth. They just always.
They're resilient.
I mean, last year number 4 seed, and they win the championship, and they blew both teams out. They blew Goffstown out, and then they blew Bedford out.
Yep.
And we've all seen what Bedford's turned into. Speaking of the Bulldogs, we'll talk to their head coach Kurt Hines coming up next on the New Hampshire High School Football Show, WGIR, AM 610 and 96.7 The Wave.
Welcome back. The best local coverage of New Hampshire high school football on the New Hampshire High School Football Show on WGIR AM 610 and News Talk 96.7 The Waves.
Back here on this playoff edition of the New Hampshire High School Football Show. We do it each and every Saturday morning between 7 and 9 a.m. Pete Terrier, along with my new co-host Dave Haley from nhsportspage.com. We got 9 playoff games around the state of New Hampshire. Talked about most of them so far this morning. We're going to be talking with Kurt Hines, the head coach of the Bedford Bulldogs, in just a couple of seconds. And we'll talk about that game, Keene against Bedford, a game that I will be at this afternoon covering for the radio show and nhsportspage.com. Myself and John Kesty, our videographer, will be out there. We'll be filming the game, bringing you the highlights, the pregame, the halftime, the postgame recap. Should be a whale of a football game, a game that I've been looking forward to ever since the pairings came out last week. And I know our next guest has not really slept a whole lot over the past 12 hours or so. He is head coach Kurt Hines of the Bedford Bulldogs. Coach texted me earlier and said he's been up since 5 o'clock this morning. You can sleep after the season's over, right, Kurt?
Absolutely. How you doing today?
I'm doing very, very well, and I'm very much looking forward to your game. And I know you guys are doing like a big tailgate prior to the game. They sent it out 11 o'clock. People will be out there tailgating at Bedford High School and gearing up for a great football game. Let's go back to the game you guys played at Keene. I can't even remember the date of the game, but I do remember it was a hell of a game, and you guys eked out a 1-point victory. And that victory right there is really the reason why you're hosting this game today, isn't it?
Absolutely. That game was a tough fight from the first snap until the final whistle. So I'm expecting the same level of play from both teams today.
Coach, I've talked to other coaches within the division who have said to me that Keene has maybe the hardest hitting defense, certainly one of them in the division. I just wanted to get your thoughts a little bit on that defense and what you're going to be going against today.
Yeah, I mean, Keene definitely brings it. One of the things that stands out most for our program against the first time we played Keene was just their speed. We know from a quarterback standpoint that James has not a lot of time. They bring some pressure, which we're expecting them to do. We have confidence in our line and our running back to pick that up. But that being said, if James decides to roll or step up into the pocket and do something else, he's going to get rid of the ball quick.
Talking, of course, about his fine quarterback, James Caparell of the Bedford Bulldogs, one of the best players in the state. I think certainly hands down the best quarterback. Yeah. On the Keene side, they have a great quarterback as well, Lucas Lupa. I think James Caparell, better passer, also has the ability to run. When you look at Lucas Lupa, I think he is more of a running quarterback who also can throw the football. When you got a double threat type of guy like that, how do you prepare for that? Because teams in the NFL had trouble with Michael Vick when he was playing really well because you really didn't know what to key on. When you look at the game planning for this particular game and this particular kid, what do you focus on most?
You're absolutely right. I think our greatest concern with Lucas is he's an amazing run threat, and he is certainly good enough of a passer to force us to be honest on defense. I think first and foremost what we've done all year and leading up to this week is we worked a lot on pursuit drills, realizing his speed. It's never good to chase behind a ball carrier, but we got to make sure we're taking good angles to go to where he's going to be. That being said, he in our first game we had a lot of good angles, and he just made some tremendous plays and cut back and made us look less of a team than we really are. So we've got to really respect the run first from Lucas, and make sure that we don't stop before the echo of the whistle.
Coach, it's funny. I'm guilty of this too in my writing, but everybody's made a big deal, and deservedly so, about Wyndham and St. Thomas moving up a division, making the playoffs, and being a factor in that race. I think people forget that Bedford was in Division III last year. You guys have moved up to Division II. And I think the reason for that is because of your success and how good you guys have been. I just want to get your thoughts on going. I think top to bottom, it's the best division in the state. As far as you got teams at the bottom, so to speak, like Dover, Timberlane. I mean, those are good. Those are solid football teams. And I know you had good games against those guys. What were your thoughts first time around? The different venues, the different teams. I mean, what were your thoughts going through Division II?
It's been a blessing for our program. We knew going into Division II that every week was going to be a battle. We knew that there wasn't going to be any bye week necessarily where you could rest some guys and keep them healthy. That being said, we set out from the beginning to shock the state. And I realize every program and every coach in the nation will use similar words and terms, but our kids are really bought into that system. It started last year, that we gave them a week off after the state championship game against Portsmouth. And we were back in the weight room. I'm there with some assistant coaches with the guys year-round. And the kids have really bought into the system. And, week after week, we've continued to fight tough battles, like you said, against some of the teams that are, I'm using air quotes here, but lower in the division. Those are still good football programs. And I think that's prepared us well to, continue to succeed throughout the year. I think a lot of teams, with us coming into the division, thought we'd do okay, but that maybe underestimated us a little bit. And we know now going into today's game that Keene's well coached and they have great athletes, and we have to bring our best game.
It's Kurt Hines from Bedford. His team going to take on Keene. They'll host Keene at Bedford High School today. Semifinals of the Division II playoffs. You got Winnicott, you got Bishop Girton in the other game. Your team hasn't lost since it was Labor Day weekend, or the weekend after Labor Day, second weekend of the regular season, first weekend of the D2 season, 13-6. I was at that game covering it for the website, nhsportspage.com. We have the video highlights up on there. What do you remember from that game? Because it was really a defensive struggle, really the one game this year where your offense did not do what it did every other game, which is move the football and put up points on the board.
Yeah, that first game against Winnicott, the biggest thing that stands out to me is just their size and speed. I think they have the total package. They're really big up front. Their outside linebackers are, remind me of, from the Shrine game, coaching some of the kids up there, Nick Reichert from Plymouth, who is just, 6'1", 6'2", 200 pounds, and just fast and explosive. One of the reasons that I think we didn't move the ball as well as we have been of late is that was really our first test, if you will, in Division II. It was our second game of the season. So getting used to the speed and getting used to, the tempo of the game maybe was a little bit of a surprise for us, even though it shouldn't have been. And our entire offensive line, from tackle to tackle, are all underclassmen, sophomores and juniors. Since that point, our line coach, Derek Stank, and the entire offensive line have done tremendous things to continue to increase their knowledge and their awareness of the field. And we have those guys up front making calls and plays and picking up backers. At this point in the season, better than I've seen in all my 13 years of coaching high school football.
Coach, I want to go back to something you said just a couple of moments ago. When you and I spoke in the preseason on the phone for the preview, I said, what's the biggest difference with James Caparella? I remember one thing you said. You said he gets the ball out faster. Like, he makes his decisions quicker. He makes his reads. And, of course, that's experience, and I know how hard he works and how well you guys coach him. Talk about a little bit about, you talked about how fast Keane's defense is. I wanted to hear your thoughts again on how important that's going to be today. Just getting the ball out quick and avoiding that pass rush Keane is going to bring.
Yeah, it's paramount. I mean, James, since day one, as we mentioned, has always had the ability to throw the long ball and throw it well. Getting this point in the season, we know teams are going to be in pressure, and the teams we're playing are teams that have the speed and the total package. We have, I think any coach, that I coach the running backs in addition to calling the offense, and what we always tell our running backs is 4 yards to carry, we'll never lose a game. As long as our defense does their job, we'll keep moving the ball. And our philosophy has got to be the same, and it has been for the most part with our passing game, where if we can get 4 yards to pass, get the ball into the receiver's hands at 3 yards, if you will, and then have them make some yaks and get 4 or 5 or more yards, we certainly have the guys that can do that. James is, without a doubt, a playmaker. As long as he spreads that ball around the field and gets the ball into the hands of the other playmakers around him, we will be able to move the ball today.
Coach, one of the things that you got to be concerned of when you're running an offense style like you do, that passing game, is weather, especially this time of year. I think you lucked out today with the weather. It's going to be great. Do you ever worry about if it's windy, if it's real rainy, if it's super, super cold? Say you guys win today and you either advance to play Winnicott or you're hosting BG next week, and all of a sudden the weather just turns south. And what do you worry about how that's going to affect you? It's sort of like that dome team philosophy when you get into these cold weather games. Does that ever come across your mind?
First of all, I don't think we lucked out with the weather. I talked to the big guy upstairs, and he said he'd take care of it for me. So we're all set. Really, there is that thought. I think one thing that we have, we're very blessed to have, is we have 3 running backs in Dylan York, David Cannoni, and Aaron Pallas. That maybe aren't talked about as often because of our passing strength and the receivers we have in James. And I also believe, you see some of the better teams do it, and I'm not putting us at that level yet. But on those rainy conditions, it is definitely tougher to pass, but the receivers have all the advantage. Whether it's a grass field or turf, they know their routes, they know what they're sinking their hips into and exploding out of the breaks. I think we can still pass. That being said, I'm not going to lie to you. I'm very happy. It's a sunny day today, and I would be a little concerned if it was rainy. And that may change, or it might have changed a little bit our game plan going into that. I know mid-season we had a game. I don't remember offhand which game it was, but the prediction for whatever game that was rain. So what we try to do is, literally get out there with some of the injured kids and have them, squirt the balls with water bottles. And get James, the center, and the receivers in the habit of catching and throwing and snapping the ball under those conditions. I'm very happy with the weather the way it is today.
All right, Coach. Well, we wish you the best of luck. I'll be out there this afternoon with the camera, and we'll have the highlight package up on nhsportspage.com. John, you going to commit to getting this up there this afternoon, this evening? All right, John Kesty says he'll have it up on the website, nhsportspage.com, sometime before you go to bed tonight, Coach. We wish you the best of luck and looking forward to a good game.
Hey, thanks for all you guys do.
All right, Coach. Thanks so much. We'll see you out there. Bedford coach Kurt Hines with us just a few hours away from kickoff, Division II semifinal. Keene, Coach John Lupa, his son Lucas, and the rest of the Blackbirds heading east. They're going to take on the Bedford Bulldogs in what I think is the game of the day. Take our final timeout, come back, head towards the top of the hour, wrap up the show. We'll run down with some quick hitters on each and every one of the 9 playoff games coming up today with myself and Dave Haley of NH NewHampshireSportsPage.com. It is the New Hampshire High School Football Show, WGIR, AM 610 and 96.7 The Wave. Something tells me we'll be hearing this song in many a high school football player's iPod today, maybe over the PA systems around the state of New Hampshire as they get psyched up, geared up for playoff football today in the state of New Hampshire. 9 games, all divisions, champions crowned in divisions 4, 5, and 6. Championship games determined in divisions 1, 2, and 3. We'll go wrap around right now some quick hit comments and sarcastic remarks about these games coming up around the state. They all kick off at 1 o'clock. So if you haven't jumped on the Twitter bandwagon yet, my recommendation is to do so. Get yourself set up on Twitter.com and just follow it, because it is the best way really to cover or follow the scores as they come in from 9 games going off at once. Being on Twitter and just checking it out, and we'll get you a good place to start. And that's what's the Twitter handle for the website, Dave?
You don't even know. NH Sports, yeah.
You don't even know.
Elliot Bless handles all that stuff. He's going to be out at, as I said, at Somersworth for that game. But if you follow, Ryan O'Leary and does Pete Terrier text?
Pete Terrier tweets.
Do you?
Yeah, I do.
Because you don't have to keep score anymore. That's right.
Well, I'll be keeping scores and keeping stats and trying to tweet out as much as I can from that Bedford Keene today. So if you just follow me at Pete Terrier, and you know how to spell my name correctly, Tarrier, not the dog, spelling Te, at Pete Terrier with an A. I follow a bunch of these other high school football writers and reporters.
Yeah.
So you'll be able to kind of follow the scores just by following me. So it's something that I recommend that you do.
Roger Brown, another good guy to follow.
Roger does it.
John Doyle.
John Doyle from Fosters.com does it as well. You'll be well aware of what's going on around the state. Just follow me at Pete Terrier, and we'll have it for you. Let's talk about D1 first. You got Nashua South, Pinkerton. I think both of us agree that Pinkerton and Exeter, as Exeter takes on Manchester Central, that matchup is destined to happen next week, is it not?
It feels like it, and they're both playing very, and they're both playing very, very well. Pinkerton, seems to have all the momentum. I wrote about this. I think people are kind of not looking past Exeter, but they haven't gotten as much attention because I think they closed with like Londonderry and Memorial and kind of the lower part of their schedule. They played all their toughest games at the beginning of the year.
Yeah, they certainly did. And you know what? I haven't seen Exeter since they played Manchester Central in week 3, 49-0.
But you saw them like twice.
I saw them 3 weeks in a row. I saw their first 3 games. I saw them play Dover in week 1. I saw them play at Pinkerton and win that game. I saw that Central game. I have not seen Exeter since then.
Yeah.
So I'm very much looking forward to that game next week if it actually happens. If it doesn't, what are you going to do? I mean, I like a Cinderella story, but I really want to see Exeter Pinkerton next week, and I think everybody does.
And just a reminder, last year, remember, Salem with Jerickson Frederick, they hung. Remember, everyone thought they were going to lose. They had lost big to Pinkerton during the season, and they hung with Pinkerton, remember, last year in the semifinals. I mean, it's playoffs. Anything can happen, and these games are always going to be a little closer than you think.
D2 semis. We just talked to Kurt Hines from Bedford. His team hosting Keene today. It was a 1-point game in Keene. Bedford won. The reason that they're hosting the game today, 25-24. Huge game by Caparel. He's thrown for almost 2,000 yards this year. Thrown for 23 touchdown passes. And he also has the ability to run the football. Lucas Lupa, a double threat as well for Keene. I'm expecting a good game, but I like Bedford in that game, and I like them to take on Winnicott next week. I think Winnicott will have no problems whatsoever with BG. BG has just really struggled down the stretch, and they've got blown out by all 3 of the other playoff teams in D2.
Yeah, and I think they see the writing on the wall a little bit, that team. I mean, we were at that game with John last weekend, and I totally agree with you. I think Winnicott is a pretty sure thing to move on, and they always have tremendous crowds there in Hampton too. That whoever comes out of Bedford Keene is going to be a beat up football team. It's going to be again, game of the day. Tremendous.
Portsmouth Milford, pretty good game as well. You got the 2 seed, the Spartans, hosting the number 3 Clippers. I like Portsmouth in this game. I haven't seen either one of the teams this year, but for some reason, I just think Portsmouth has owned them in recent years. I'm not sure if this year is any different. Milford beat them, by 3 touchdowns last time they played, 24-6. But I just like Portsmouth in this game, and I like them to take on Souhegan, although I think Goffstown has a pretty good chance. Tough game last week. The game played Saturday night at St. A's. Souhegan won 32-27. It was a come-from-behind win for the Sabres, but I like to see Souhegan against Portsmouth. That's what I think. But I don't think you can go wrong with a Souhegan-Milford championship game or a Goffstown-Portsmouth or Goffstown-Milford.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And the thing with Goffstown is they always have a shot because they can score fast. And, a lot of these teams, they're methodical. They kind of work their chains down the field. And so if they get down by a couple of touchdowns, Goffstown can score quick with Connor Benjamin. So they can put up a lot of points. They're still in it. Portsmouth, again, with Dylan Crosby back and a couple other guys, you heard Coach Murphy say Donovan Fainer is probably going to play. It is going to play today. That's why I like it. But it could go either way.
All right, Trinity-Plymouth. To me, game 1A of the day with Bedford-Keene. I think they're all going to be good games, but this one, Trinity-Plymouth, hell of a football game. I picked Plymouth to win this game. I would not be surprised if Trinity won. I just think Plymouth is a really good football team. So is Trinity, but I think Plymouth is better.
Well, I think that Romeo Mizuko right now is like a hot running back. Like, he's had big games lately, and the first time around, they started running between the tackles in that game. Trinity did, and they were moving the football, but they just killed themselves with turnovers.
We've got about a minute left to go, Dave. D5 championship game. Somersworth, number 1. Monadnock, number 3. Monadnock won the game in overtime in the regular season in Swansea, 21-14, but it was 14-0 with about 2.5 minutes left. Somersworth scored 2 touchdowns in the final 2 minutes and change to send it to overtime, and then Monadnock won in OT. I like Somersworth in the game. I think you said you picked Monadnock.
I picked Monadnock last week, too, in my 10-0 week last week. But, yeah, I like Monadnock again. I'm going to roll with Monadnock.
And, oh, by the way, you're 18-2 in the last 2 weeks.
Finishing strong.
And still trailing me by about 5, 6, 7 games or something.
A little sleepwalking.
The Division 6 championship game, you got Franklin, you got Mascoma. I think Mascoma wins the game. I know nothing about either of the teams. You like Mascoma?
I like Mascoma at home. Big physical football team. They move the ball.
All right. It's going to be a lot of fun. I want to thank all the guests who joined us. Ryan O'Leary, SeacoastOnline.com. Steve Burns from Trinity. Greg Kretschmar, Somersworth Football, Yahoo Dad. Bill Murphy from Portsmouth. And Kurt Hines, the head coach of Bedford Bulldogs. Check out the coverage. Check out the rebroadcast, the videocast of the show later on at nhsportspage.com. For Dave Haley, our producer Adam Furious, and our videographer John Kesty, I'm Pete Terrier.